What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you guys today with a little bit of news about Destiny, and specifically the Taken King is what we are going to be talking about today. Now, some interesting news has come out about the game that I felt like I needed to kind of comment on a little bit. I know now last week in their weekly update they went over the new Dreadnought that is coming with the Taken King, and some of that actually looked pretty cool and pretty interesting, but I really didn't feel like doing a video on it because I didn't feel like there was really that much to talk about, because it just seemed like they were trying to hype up the Taken King a little bit more, talking about all the new changes to patrol mode. And at this point, obviously I'm not really buying into a lot of the hype for this expansion, just given what's come before in the first three releases of Destiny, whether it was Vanilla Destiny or The Dark Below or House of Wolves. We've seen this hype every single time, and so far they've yet to deliver, in my opinion. So, but today I read two articles on Game Informer about Destiny, and of course Bungie's over in Europe for some video game convention this week, so obviously they're probably trying to put out some information. Before that, we're probably going to get some new news about the Taken King this week, so I'll kind of pay attention to that and see what's going on. But very interesting things about the Taken King. Obviously, that's coming out in September, and it's going to be making some very drastic changes to how the game Destiny actually works. So we're going to talk about those. One of them is kind of, I don't want to say great, probably going to irritate a lot of people with regards to some of the weapon changes they're going to be doing. But one of them I actually was very intrigued by and thought was a very good decision on Bungie's part. So I'm going to go over those. We'll start with the start off with the bad, and that is basically they have confirmed, at least the Game Informer is saying in this article, that your Year 1 legendary weapons will be staying behind in Year 2, which of course Year 2 starts with the Taken King. So any of those legendary weapons that you like, that you love, that you've been playing with for the first year are going to be obsolete. Now, they did say that you'll be able to use them for a little bit through the Taken King, but they will quickly be replaced by new weapons in the game, and that's going to have a lot to do with the level cap increase. There's a pretty big level cap increase coming with the Taken King, and I'll talk about that here in a second because that's also been confirmed. So your legendary weapons, that you already have that only go up to attack level 365 are not going to be usable once you level up and get to that higher level cap and you're fighting against much more difficult enemies. So this has the potential to probably irritate a lot of players because we do grow attached to our weapons. I know a lot of people still use their Fatebringer and their Vault of Glass weapons because they were a lot better than most of the weapons that came out with Crota. Personally, myself, I love my Fang of Ur-Ute, which came out with the Dark Below, and I've got several other legendary weapons that I really do enjoy using, even though I don't play this game hardly at all anymore. You always go back to some of those old favorites. I always regret dismantling my Shadow Price auto rifle that I had back in Vanilla Destiny. That weapon was always really good. Really enjoyed using it all the time, and kind of wish I still had that. But I know there's two sides to this. A lot of people are going to be upset about it because a lot of people want to bring their gear with them. They want to continue to use the same gear they like, and that's understandable. At the same time, though, Bungie, I'm sure, wants to kind of move the game on. They want to get into Year 2. Hopefully they're going to be, designing a bunch of great new weapons. I did do a video a few weeks ago about that when they talked about the new weapons that are coming with the Taken King. A lot of the weapon designs look really neat. The Foundry stuff they're doing looks pretty cool. And, of course, they are, you do want to have some new gear come into the game. It's going to be kind of boring if you're constantly using the exact same weapons over and over all the time, without ever getting some new gear. That's one of the things that you like in a game, is to constantly have new guns and things to use. And that's one of the things that made Destiny really enjoyable, actually, when you're leveling from level 1 to 20, is the fact that you do get to pick up a lot of different gear. You get to use a lot of different armor and a lot of different weapons as you go through the game. That's actually the thing for me, was that Destiny from level 1 to 20 was actually, even though there is no story, and that's still a very sore point with me, the game is actually somewhat enjoyable going from level 1 to 20 because you get to use so much different gear. Your Guardian looks different. Everybody looks kind of cool. It's just really weird how it seems they spent so much time on designing all the uncommon and rare, the green and the blue gear, and even some of the common white gear. It's just weird how some of that stuff looks so interesting, and then when you get to endgame, all the legendary gear that you have to use to stay at the highest level looks terrible. you know, some of it looks cool, but most of it looks pretty bad. Now that's something else we're going to get into here in a minute, because they are doing a major change to how that's going to work in the future too. But so, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. A lot of people are definitely going to be upset by this. Some people are probably welcoming this. Like I said, it's going to be nice to kind of have some newer weapons finally to use, and hopefully, the only way though that's not going to make people upset is that if Bungie's actually doing as they say and they're designing a bunch of great new weapons for the game. So hopefully they are. Hopefully that's what they're working on. And like I said, personally, you know, you're going to get bored eventually using, you know, you can't use Fatebringer for 10 years in Destiny. And that's part of, I think, what they want to go for here. So that's pretty much it for the weapons, the legendary weapons at least. Exotics are supposedly going to be not affected by this. You'll be able to bring exotics along. That's something I was hoping they would confirm, because I was afraid what was going to happen was they were going to make exotics from Year 1 obsolete. And I wasn't afraid of that because I like so many of the Year 1 exotics. There's a lot of exotics that are quite honestly a waste of time. But my main concern was that the Xbox One players who had to wait a year for exclusives like Fourth Horseman and Hawkmoon, of course, were going to wait an entire year, and then Taken King was going to release, and those exotics were going to become obsolete, which basically would have been a big slap in the face to Xbox players, since they finally get the exclusives and they wouldn't even be able to use them in the expansion. So I'm glad to see that exotics are going to apparently be able to be brought along for the Taken King. It doesn't say whether or not, you know, how you'll upgrade those or what the upgrade path will be for those. I'm sure they'll have some kind of grind built in there, because that's what, you know, Destiny's always going to have some kind of grind component in it, no matter what Bungie says. You know, they said with House of Wolves they were trying to eliminate all the grind, and they did take a few hurdles away, but they also added in several other kind of hidden aspects that led to even more grind in the game than it had previously. So that's the first little bit of news we got from the Game Informer article. Now here is the second part that I am very intrigued by. Now, again, I'm still very skeptical about Taken King. I'm not going to be pre-ordering Taken King. If I do end up getting the game, it's going to be after watching other people play it, see what it actually entails. But it does seem like they are really putting a lot of work into it, which is kind of a double-edged sword for me, because on one hand, I like some of the stuff they're actually talking about putting in Taken King, like the thing they did about the Dreadnought last week really looked really cool. You know, talking about how they were going to upgrade patrol mode, make it more difficult. There's going to be all kinds of different secrets you can find and different paths on quests you can do when you're in patrol mode. And some of that seemed really, really cool. And I'm like, well, why wasn't that stuff implemented in the game already? You know, why is it we had to wait this long for you guys to finally realize how boring and bland patrol mode is in this game? So it's always a double-edged sword with them at this point. And this next thing I'm going to cover kind of reinforces that a little bit. Is they are going to be raising the level cap to level 40. So right now it's currently level 34 is the level cap in the game. Level cap is going to be raised to level 40. Now here's the interesting thing. Light level is apparently no longer going to influence your actual level in the game. So everyone is going to be able to reach level 40 regardless of their gear. It's going to be a complete, they're switching it over. It's going to be based completely on experience only. And you will be going from, if you're just starting the game, it'll be from level 1 to 40. If you've already you know, been playing the game and you're level 34, then you'll just have to go from level 34 to level 40. So there's not going to be any more light level, apparently. I actually think this is a great idea. This is a great idea. They should not have waited this long to implement this, because one of the biggest complaints a lot of people have had about Destiny is the light level. Because unfortunately, making the light level only available through raid gear and the etheric light system and all this other stuff they've tried to do with it, it's alienated a lot of players who don't have a lot of time to play the game, and they're always, you know, talking about, you know, filthy casuals and things like that. And the base thing with Destiny was always, if you didn't have enough time to sink in versus other players, you know, it's just not possible for a lot of people to get to the max level cap. And unfortunately, you see a lot of alienation on the looking for group sites when it comes to doing in-game activities and things like that. So it was very annoying that, you know, you can't get to level, you know, you can only be level 30 because you can't run the raid. I always thought that was such a stupid thing, especially in vanilla Destiny. And then when, you know, Crota came out and House of Wolves came out, obviously there were still obstacles in place to reaching the max level cap, which, you know, they always try to talk about Destiny sort of in a massive multiplayer online game sense, you know, and what I would always say was, you know, when I played MMOs like World of Warcraft and, you know, City of Heroes and Star Wars: The Old Republic and all these other games, you know, it was never about this, oh, you can't reach max level if you didn't run this very small piece of content in the game. And that's the thing about Destiny. There's all this, well, there's really not a lot of content, but in terms of the raid is a very small part of the game. It's a very tiny part of the content that actually exists in the game. My opinion was always you should not be restricted from reaching the maximum level just because you haven't been able to run that very small piece of content. I can only imagine if World of Warcraft came along, you know, back when I played, the level cap was 70, then it went to 80. I think now it's around 100, but back then I can only imagine, you know, I got to level 78 out of 80 and them saying, oh, well, you know what, since you didn't run this one single dungeon in the game, this one little piece of content out of all the content in the game, we're not going to allow you to reach maximum level. That would have been absolutely ridiculous, and half the people who play World of Warcraft would have been supremely upset about that. So I always thought it was a really kind of a dumb system that they did in the first place. Really didn't understand why they put the light level in there. And I guess in a way it makes sense because they do want to increase grind. They want people to continue to have to play the game. And if you can't reach maximum level without a certain particulars, then you do have to continually grind and grind and grind and give Activision that player time spent, which seems to be the only thing Activision really cares about, is how much time people are actually playing their game. They don't care if people are actually enjoying that play time. They just want you to be sinking countless hours into Destiny. So it's very cool that I think they're going to this new system now. You will just earn experience by killing enemies, completing missions, doing bounties, you know, as usual, as you did coming up through the campaign from level 1 to 20. But now you're going to be able to do that all the way to the maximum level cap. Now they're saying that gear and everything will still enhance your character. So this to me sounds a lot like the armor systems that exist in a lot of MMO games again, where basically, you know, everybody can be, like, let's take, again, I'll take World of Warcraft, for example, when I used to play it. Everybody can be level 80. You know, it's like there's nothing special about the level cap just because you ran a certain piece of content. Everybody gets to be the same maximum level, which works out, you know, and people are pretty much free to do what they want to do with that. You know, if you don't want to do raids, if you don't want to do dungeons, you can go do whatever you want. You can, and that's the one thing that's really been lacking from Destiny, is there's really not a whole lot of player choice. You are forced into doing certain things over and over and over again if you want to get the best gear, if you want to succeed. You have to play certain activities. You know, if you can't play those activities or find a group, then you're pretty much SOL, which is unfortunate. But the one thing about when I played World of Warcraft, even though everybody could be maximum level, if you didn't particularly run the raids, then you wouldn't get some of the better gear, which was okay. You know, it wasn't like the raid gear was super amazing and made it a lot better than the normal gear you could achieve in terms of legendary gear. But the raid gear and some of the other more exotic gear always had really good set bonuses. They had really good armor ratings and all kinds of other skills that really helped boost your character beyond the main powers and skills you got for being level 80. So I think that sounds like to me what they're trying to go for now is they're going to be going to a system where you basically will use your armor and weapons to enhance your character, but everybody's going to be able to reach that same maximum level cap, which I think this is a great idea. I know a lot of the Destiny community has been clamoring for this, and a lot of people have just talked about how bad the light level system was from day one. So I really do hope that's what's going to be happening. You know, this Game Informer article sounds pretty official, so this would be really nice if that is what they are going to do. The light level system has always been I think a really bad system. And again, like I said, a lot of critics at Destiny have mentioned that. And, you know, it's good that I think they finally listened to this and they are finally going into this type of system, which I think honestly should have been in the game from day one. I think the light level system was just there to artificially increase playtime. You know, which at the time Destiny came out, it was a 6 to 7 out of 10 game, and a lot of us, you know, I fully say that the game rating was deserved when it first came out. Destiny was, you know, at its core, it's got some really good mechanics and it's got some really good things going on, but overall, it lacks content. It lacks a lot of stuff to do. There's just no story in the game. And, you know, and having the Grimoire outside the game is no excuse for, you know, the poor story in the actual game, especially when you talk about, there's a lot of older games that have much more story than Destiny that did so on a much smaller budget, and were able to even include codex systems within their own game. So, you know, Destiny has had lots of problems in year one, but this is kind of showing that I guess they are trying to finally make that change that people are looking for. My only problem really with it comes from, again, with Bungie. It just seems like it takes them forever to address these things. It takes them forever to kind of, you know, do things that benefit the game. All right, and one last little piece of news, and then I'll get into a little bit more final commentary on this, is they are changing the way the RNG loot system works in Destiny. It's now going to take into account items that you've already acquired. So if you, like, for say you've already got, my thing is, let's say, okay, I've got Patience in Time. That's an exotic sniper rifle. I get that exotic drop all the time in this game. I've probably had 7 of those things drop since I switched over to PlayStation 4 and started playing this game. I don't get any other exotics. You know, I don't get Hawkmoon, I don't get Yellowhorn, I don't get anything. It's just I keep getting Patience in Time. And I've seen a lot of other people complain about that. I mean, there's people that have gotten, 10, 15 Yellowhorns. There's people who get Thunderlord all the time or Red Death 6 or 7 times. It always seems like everybody has that one exotic that they just always keep getting over and over and over again. And I definitely have that problem with Patience in Time. And I've seen plenty of other people complaining about the same thing. So this new RNG system, what it's basically going to do is pay closer attention to loot you already have received and what you already have in your inventory when it determines what's going to drop for you in terms of the RNG. So you should more consistently, what they're saying is you'll hopefully more consistently gain weapons and armor that gives you, better bonuses and helps you have a more varied arsenal and gives you more stuff that you need and not stuff you already have. So that's pretty cool. That's something, again, people have been complaining about that for a long time in this game. So overall, I think these are some really good changes. This is some really good news for the Taken King. However, as I've said many times, I am still remaining skeptical. I am not going to pick up this game until, I see some reviews on it, until we see what exactly the content is, because they're doing a lot of great stuff. Don't get me wrong. And the new subclasses are coming, all this stuff they're doing with the Dreadnought, this new stuff they're just announcing today with the way they're basically changing the way the weapons and armor and the leveling system works. Some of this is pretty cool. But, there's also some very bad things, like in terms of leaving behind all the legendary weapons and all that. That basically, in a way, and I know how MMOs work, so, I know people are going to say, well, you don't understand, that's what they do in MMOs. Well, number one, Destiny's not an MMO. And number two, it is going to invalidate basically everything you've done in year 1 by getting rid of those legendary weapons. All those Vault of Glass raids you did for those armor and weapons, all those Crota raids you did, it kind of gets, now it's like, well, what was the point? And again, also, if you're still playing Destiny now, you got about a month until the Taken King comes out. What's the point of playing the game right now? What is there to do, especially if you've already got a level 34? If you enjoy playing the Lagfest PvP that much, which I used to, but anymore it's gotten pretty terrible, then maybe you still play PvP, maybe you still play Trials. I don't really know. But in terms of the PvE and other things, I don't know how people aren't bored out of their minds with this game right now. And I don't know what you would keep playing for another month now, especially since there's no point in continuing to acquire a lot of these weapons. The other thing, too, is that I think in a way this is also Bungie's response to the vault space issue. People in this game hoard a lot of items. There is actually, an absolute minimal amount of vault space in this game for the amount of armor and items and, collectors, the people that want to collect stuff. And Bungie keeps making up excuse after excuse about how there's no, the generation gap in the consoles prevents them from making a bigger vault, which I think is absolute BS. Because there's plenty of other games that have come out that are much, much bigger than Destiny on the Xbox 360 and on the PlayStation 3 that have huge amounts of inventory space, much more than what Destiny has. Whether we're talking about Grand Theft Auto, we're talking about Skyrim, even the Mass Effect games, you could just acquire. I'm going back to the first Mass Effect. You could acquire a ton of different gear that you could hang on to in your inventory. And I think it's just ridiculous that they keep using that excuse. This is I don't know. It's the next generation of gaming, and Destiny was supposed to be this super advanced game, but they just seem to have all these issues when they're trying to work out minor things in this game. And so I think instead of trying to work on increasing the vault space, which would obviously cost hours of programming and hours of time that Activision would have to pay for, they're just deciding to do this other solution, which is to basically make all those year 1 weapons obsolete, so there will be no reason for people to hang on to them. And I would also caution people on this because, they've said this before. I believe it was Deej who came out and said when he was asked in an interview that Vault of Glass weapons would be frozen in time. He was talking about the Mythoclast. He was talking about all the other Vault of Glass, the Fatebringer. And if you guys remember, a lot of us deleted our stuff from Vanilla Destiny. We got rid of our old weapons, we got rid of our old armor, and then what did they do? They came out with House of Wolves. They said, hey, guess what, guys? All your old stuff can be ascended to the new level. Even the stuff you had from Vault of Glass, even the stuff you had from old school Destiny. And a lot of us were like, whoa, 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 hold up a second. You told us, a couple months ago that stuff was going to be obsolete. And you told us the Vault of Glass stuff was frozen in time. Even your community manager, your so-called spokesperson for the game to the community, came out of his mouth. That's what he told us. And they turn around a few months later and they basically completely go back on that and make everything now viable. So I caution you guys when they say this stuff's going to be obsolete. Remember that. Don't forget what happened. Don't forget the past. That definitely happened before, and we know what happened in terms of kind of the uproar that occurred when House of Wolves came out, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, hey, guess what, guys? Now you can use all your old stuff. Sorry, it was some miscommunication. Seems to be one of the trademarks. So that is one thing I would caution, number one, on this, even though some of the stuff does seem pretty cool. The other thing is, I can't help but feel a lot of this stuff was supposed to be in Destiny from day one. It's really kind of funny because if you think about the Taken King, like the Legendary Edition that new players are going to pick up for $60, which is the price of a regular game when it comes out, that to me is like they're getting a pretty good deal, in my opinion. Honestly, they're going to get a lot of stuff. If they're a brand new player of Destiny just coming on board with the Taken King, they're going to get a ton of content compared to what we got when this game first came out. This game had a laughable amount of content when it released. They've really not remedied that with either expansion. I still think there is a very tiny and laughable amount of content in the game as it is. But now you come in and you buy the Taken King Legendary Edition for $60, you are pretty much getting a full game with lots of stuff to do. And to me, it kind of sucks that a lot of us day one players have had to sit through this for over a year. And now, we're finally going to get that game that we wanted at release that has a lot of the stuff in it that we wanted. But if you want to get that, you're going to have to spend more money. At this point, you're going to have spent, probably, I don't know, at the minimum, you'll have spent $140. That's if you bought the base version of Destiny, if you bought the 2 expansion packs for $40, and then if you bought the Taken King. So you're going to have to wind up spending $140 for what's finally going to amount for a full game. And the last year that you've spent playing Destiny has basically been a full beta test while Bungie tried to figure out their crap, which they still haven't done a great job of, but they are doing a much better job trying to implement things into the game, so I'll give them credit for that. A lot of this stuff I'm reading here about the Taken King seems to be pretty good, but like I said, I can't help but get rid of that feeling that we've just been doing a beta test for the last year, and we're still getting royally screwed over by Activision somehow. A lot of this stuff was very, very easy for them to implement. They should have done it a long time ago. They should have tested the game a little bit longer. And it finally feels like we're actually getting a full game at this point when the Taken King releases. But like I said, the problem is we've had to spend money on the base game. We've had to buy 2 DLC packs and now a 3rd DLC expansion just to get a full single game experience that should have been there when the game first came out. So that's pretty much what I think about that, guys. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm trying, I'm not going to jump, but I'm not going to get pulled back in by the hype with Bungie. It's just not something I'm going to do. As much good stuff has been, the last 2 weeks for Taken King have had some really cool stuff coming out. Like when I saw this thing today about the level changing and how they're going to do change RNG and make the leveling based all on experience, which is going to give players a bit more freedom in how they play the game. I thought that was a great idea. It really did. But like I said, I'm very skeptical. We'll see how they implement it. And, I'm still, based on what has happened with Destiny for the first year, it's very hard to trust them, at least in my opinion. You guys are going to make your decision and do what you want. I'm just trying to put the information out there so you've got it to take a look at. So anyways, guys, if you're interested, I will link those 2 articles to the Game Informer articles below in the description. You guys can go check those out. Check out these changes that are coming. Like I said, some good, some bad. A lot of people are probably going to be upset by those by the weapons not being available, or not being useful anymore come year 2. But sometimes that's the way it is. But I think the putting the light level, or getting rid of the light level and making it level 40, I think that's going to be a very good change overall for the game. And like I said, it's nice. The newer players are going to get this when they come in, but it just, like I said, for a lot of us year 1 players, this almost feels like we've been beta testing Destiny for the last year. And, now we're going to have to spend even more money if we finally want to get the full game we thought we were getting based on all the hype and the advertising that came before it. But that's pretty much all I got to say about this, guys. If any more news comes out on the Taken King that I feel is worthy of making a video about, I will definitely let you guys know. I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for watching. Appreciate any comments below you have on this, and I will see you again next time.